In the class members concept, I given you overview about accessors and access modifiers. So, and static and non-static members. So these are all the concepts we learned. That means we are discussing what's new in TypeScript. So what is there in JavaScript is same continued. In addition to that, some new things which are available in TypeScript, we are discussing about them. In that, actually accessors you have in JavaScript also, accessors will work, but JavaScript will not have any access modifiers. And we discussed public, private, and protected access modifier, and static and non-static members. So these are also new. I told you what is static. What is static? Remember the point. Technically, what is static? How you define? Static configures. What static configures? Good. Static configures continuous memory. Yeah, and the non-static is discrete memory. Good, right? That is the best way of describing static and non-static. And I showed you practically an example also. And after understanding static and non-static members, one more concept you need to understand here is about inheritance and polymorphism. Actually, JavaScript also supports same. JavaScript supports inheritance polymorphism. So technically, JavaScript supports, and here also same. Inheritance, already you have seen contracts you can extend. That means a class can extend another class. A class can extend another class. Now, while extending the class, I hope you have learned a basic rule about classes extensibility. I hope you people have learned this definition at this point, that derived class constructor must have a super call. It is mandatory. Derived class constructor must have a super call. Have you learned this point? Generally in JavaScript, so derived class constructor must have a super call. That means you cannot call the derived class constructor without the super class constructor. So I will show you the point here. See, that rule is same. We have to follow the rule here exactly in a similar way. So in this, yeah, I am configuring here a simple class as super class. Okay, and in this we have a constructor, and already you know that in JavaScript, constructor is defined by the keyword constructor, and class name will be used. It's anonymous. Constructor is anonymous. So you don't need to define a name. Class name will be used for constructor. And I printed here console.log. This is a super class constructor. So that is same, no change. And I am creating So another class derived. Derived class extends the superclass. If derived class extends the superclass, so here derived class is also having a constructor. If derived class is also having a constructor, then you have a problem. So console.log. So I return here derived class constructor. And you see now it is showing error because as per the rules of extensibility, you cannot create an object for derived class without accessing the constructor of superclass. That means first superclass constructor should execute. So then derived class constructor should execute. Now what should happen is here in the constructor, generally in the constructor. So this constructor is not valid because you have to call the superclass constructor first, then derived class. How to call the superclass constructor in the derived class? So by using super keyword, you have to access that. Very good. I hope majority you people have learned that, right? So this is the basic rule for constructor in JavaScript, and the same continues for TypeScript also. So it is mandatory that the derived class constructor must have a super call. So super call means it should call the super constructor. Why? Because as per inheritance rule, first super class constructor will execute, then followed by derived class. That's the reason we have to follow this concept. Okay. Next point. Next point here is, this is common. So that means when I create an object for derived class, when we create an object for derived class, this constructor will automatically execute. And you can see that first I will open in Explorer. Command prompt. And here tsc index.ts. So, and node index.js, and it will execute. That is the super class constructor first, then the derived class constructor. Now, so here the point is, this constructor I written, is it implicit constructor or explicit constructor? Is it implicit constructor or explicit constructor? That is an explicit constructor. Implicit, explicit means meaning, you know, implicit means a constructor which is internally configured by default. These are explicit. We return these constructors. These are explicit constructors, right? And when you are writing explicit constructors, generally, when you are writing explicit constructors, so you have to call them. Implicit constructor will automatically execute. You don't need to call them. Huh? So to understand whether to call the constructor or not, first you should know the constructor implicit or explicit, right? So these are all explicit constructors, and constructor will be execute. So these are not new. Already these are all JavaScript concepts only. And you might have learned that class will support class will support single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, but class will not support multiple inheritance. Am I right? Class will not support multiple inheritance. That means, so it will not support multiple inheritance, right? So that is the general thing. So class will support single inheritance. Multi-level inheritance means, so we have a derived class is extended by another derived class. That means this derived class is extended by another derived class, derived one, extends the derived. This is multi-level. This is multi-level. Multiple inheritance is not supported for classes. So if anyone asks like why multiple inheritance is not supported, why it is not supported for classes? Why not supported for classes? What is the reason? Multiple inheritance is not supported for classes. What is the reason? Why multiple inheritance is not supported for classes? Okay, lot of the words ambiguity. Okay, what is ambiguity? What is ambiguity? Ambiguity means confusion for whom? Who is confused? Ambiguity means who is confused. Who is confused? Who confuses the compiler? Who confuses the compiler? So many you could, okay. So let me keep it in a clear way. Okay. So many good answers you have given, but still not satisfying. You given good answers, but still not satisfying, right? I will tell you. I will tell you the point here. All your thinking is good, but not accurate on the spot, correct concept point. So technically, so the concept here is generally, if anyone asks why multiple inheritance is not supported, the main reason is actually you have to use the word due to constructor deadlocks. Due to constructor deadlock. That is the main reason. What is constructor deadlock? I will explain that. See, so that is the reason I explained this point one more time. One more time I explained this point. I hope everyone understood this rule that derived class must first call superclass constructor. Everyone understood this point clearly, right? Everyone understood this point. So yeah, actually, more better answer for this multiple inheritance not supported is constructor deadlock. This is a very high level answer. Usually you can expect this from architects of programming, constructor deadlocks. Why? Because I will show you. See, actually deadlock means see, deadlock is nothing but suppose you have a process. So that means this is the process. in this process, so process will allow only one task. Now you have two tasks, task one, and task two tasks. Now, out of these two tasks, only one is allowed. Now, what happens is this first task is waiting for second task to go into process. But second task is waiting for first task to go into process. That means both are waiting for each other. No one is going into the process. Both cannot go at a time because process allows only one, and both are waiting for each other and no one is going into this. This is called deadlock. I hope you know this, huh? Deadlock. This is deadlock. So this concept is deadlock, right? Good. Now what happens is, actually that is deadlock situation. That is the deadlock. And actually, suppose we have super class 1, super class 2. So like that, we have super classes. Now super class 3. Now we have a derived class. Means actually we have a process. Into the process, only one superclass constructor must be loaded. Now what happens is, one superclass constructor must be loaded. This is the process actually. Only one superclass constructor must be loaded. So if one superclass constructor must be loaded, same concept will happen. Now this constructor, super 1 constructor waiting for super 2, super 2 is waiting for super 3, or super 3 waiting for super 2, and super 2 waiting for super 1. All are waiting for each other. No constructor goes into the process. So this derived class object cannot be created because what happened here? Because what happened here? What happened here? Constructor deadlock happened here. Due to constructor deadlock, it is unable to create a derived class object. It's not possible. So that means multiple inheritance is not possible because of constructor deadlock. That is the correct point. I will justify this point also, right? Now, is multiple inheritance supported for interface? Is multiple inheritance supported for interface? Inheritance for interface. Why it is supported for interface? Because interface will not have any constructor, no constructor. Understood? Interface will not have a constructor. Do you know interface we have seen, right? Interface will not have a constructor. If interface is not having a constructor, then there is no problem in deadlocks. There is no deadlock at all. Generally, many times people say that same name methods may be present, that will create problem, right? If same name methods are not present, if it is same name methods are not present, is it possible? That means if same name methods are not present, is it possible? Concept is similar to what you have learned in JavaScript. Only here in JavaScript also same concept. So single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, and why multiple inheritance is not supported. See, so for example here, that is the concept here. Suppose this derived one, I will create class, suppose 1, and I said some class 2, class 2. So, and some class 3. And the 3 class is going to extends. So 1 and 2 and 3, it's not supported. This is not supported. It's not supported. Classes can extend only single class. That is the point it gives. But if it is interface, suppose this is interface. So if it is interface, this is also an interface. So interface. And now you see here. So here interface, and this is also an interface or interface. I will give like this. Yeah. You can see that it's supported now. It can support 1 and 2 because interface will not have any constructor. Interface will not have any constructor, explicit or implicit. It will not have a constructor. So that is the reason. So this is possible. This is possible. So technically, that is the point about inheritance. Inheritance. Next, important after understanding this inheritance. Now, another important is polymorphism. So, polymorphism and how this works. What is polymorphism and how it works? Generally, polymorphism means what you know about polymorphism. In a simple point, can you tell what is polymorphism? In computer programming, what is polymorphism? Yeah, okay, many forms only. In the language, in the language, polymorphism means overloading. Okay, good. Overloading, right. Yes, overloading.
Right. Yes. Uh, Technically, who is this guy? Vinayak. I don't know who you are, right? But Vinayak, you should know that that is not my version about inheritance. That is what the programming architectural version about interface. Understood? Uh, because don't show your immaturity in the concept. Okay. Huh, huh, right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Fine. That is polymorphism. You have the word, right? Technically, how it works. Actually, how technically polymorphism is defined, how polymorphism is defined, how it works. So, how the option polymorphism works. Let's see. That point we will see. So, the concept, I will give a simple example first. So, how practically we implement this? That's the option also. Now, see here. So, suppose actually in early days we have a pager. So, we have like a digital organizer. We have a camera and we have phone. Actually, we have these devices. So, have you seen pager? Have you seen pager? Do you know pager device? Have you seen pager? You know it? No. So before mobiles came, pager was the first one. Actually, the pagers. So pager. This is pager. Actually, this is pager. It is for sending SMS. Before mobiles came, pagers were very popular. So it sends SMS. Before why mobile calls came, wireless calling came, wireless messaging was the first one. And this is actually pager. So this will send message to any person remotely. Before calling, this came actually. So the is concept of pager is to send SMS. So I hope you majority of people know digital organizer. You digital organizer. Digital organizer. This is digital organizer. Digital organizer. You see, this is digital organizer. You might have seen these kind of digital organizers in the early days. So this digital organizer can store it can have alarm. It can have calendar. It can have your appointments. You can store small notes inside it. You can store contacts inside it. You can maintain a contact book. So this is done in organizer, digital organizer. And camera is for photo and video. And mobile phone is for calling. Calling. Because now we have this mobile into the market digital organizer. It can work like a camera and it can work like a phone. That means now this one device is several. That means many. means it can be used in many forms. One component can be used in many forms for different SIM card